Pandemonium Reigns.
Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Welcome to Pandemonium Reigns. We have a very important question, at least I have a very important question to ask Mike before we begin this episode. So, before we hopped on here,
Pandemonium Reigns.
Idea he was going to shave his face, and he had to just basically give an explanation to his wife on why he did it. How did she take it? How did she take the shaving of the face, bro?
She took it poorly. If you watch our other podcast, you'll see me looking over towards the office door here because she got home, and I thought she had rehearsed her reaction because I sent her a text message that said, "Hey, I did the thing I usually do. I messed up my beard. I apologize. I look like a 13-year-old." I was actually going to ask you also if you could just, kind of when you edit this, can you give me something, just, color marker, anything that you can do, but, that'd take too much time. But yeah, she wasn't happy, so I'm going to be figuring out a way to make facial hair grow back faster because I honestly don't know who you're doing this podcast with right now is the way I feel.
Well, I'm sorry, bro, but I don't think that iMovie has the capabilities of me drawing some kind of anything on your face. But,
well,
despite
I want to be mad at you, but I can only be mad at me.
Well, despite what she says, I think you're beautiful.
Thank you. And you are as well.
Thank you. Hey, we got some exciting stuff going into this weekend, and we are here to talk about it. We're here to tickle your ears, people. So make sure you're liking and subscribing. And, man, we are so close to over 1,000 downloads. And I really just thought that might be something that we achieve after 2 seasons. And it looks like something that's going to happen probably after this weekend. So
wow.
Just
thank
crazy,
y'all so much.
Just crazy. So let's talk to it. I mean, let's dive into it. People don't care how many downloads we have. So let's jump into it. I want to ask you before I just say, hey, let's talk about this game. Is there a game outside of ours, obviously, that has your attention that, man, I got to see what happens here?
Well, this may not even be, this could be a good game, but it probably won't. If things go the way they've gone over the years, it won't be the game that I'm thinking it could be. But man, I'm going to be fascinated to watch how Alabama responds. Because when they take that first loss or if they lose a regular season game, that's usually all the motivation they need to just pummel the living breaks off of everyone. I mean, it's usually hideous from there on out. And they've taken 2 regular season losses for the first time in a hot minute. That's something almost every team does every year, but not Alabama under Nick Saban. So yeah, I'll be fascinated to see how they respond. I think Jackson Dart's probably going to need to use his legs a lot, and I'm sure we'll talk about that game, but I'll be really, really interested to see if they check out. What do they do? That's just going to be really, really fascinating for me to watch. Vegas doesn't think it quite as highly of this game as I do because they've got Ole Miss as over a 10-point underdog, and I believe it's at Ole Miss. It is, and they're currently on ESPN a 12-point underdog. So Vegas isn't feeling what I'm necessarily feeling, but I'll be interested to watch, man. Yeah,
I don't think the question is can Ole Miss win this game. I think the question is 2022 the year Nick Saban goes 9-3.
Oh man, that fascinating. Yeah,
right. I mean
he hasn't has this good of a chance to go 9-3 in a long time. Just Ole Miss does. They run the ball really well. They're not quite as strong passing, which we've talked about some. And I remain amazed by a Lane Kiffin team doing something just completely opposite of what they did last year. Not that they couldn't or wouldn't run the ball, but that they're almost exclusively doing it this year, it seems like. I'll be fascinated. Alabama, they've got the players to beat Ole Miss, just like they did have the players to beat LSU and Tennessee. So how will they respond will be just fascinating TV for me to watch.
Yeah. So on that topic, actually, real quick before we move on, has there been another 9-3 scenario outside of 2007? I believe when they lost 5, when they went 7-5. Has Tuscaloosa seen that? I mean, did they do something similar in 2010?
I think they were 10-2 in 2010.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, if Ole Miss wins on Saturday, you're talking about history being made for Nick Saban. All right. So Ole Miss, anyway, what's fascinating about Ole Miss is I think a lot of people have figured this out by now. They're running the ball and they're doing it really, really well. They're actually leading the conference in rushing yards per game at a stout 267 yards per game. Listen,
Wow.
bro, the next closest is Arkansas. The next closest is Arkansas. And it's a good 40-yard difference, sitting at 233 yards per game. And also, what's fascinating about Ole Miss is they are second in the conference in rushing scores on the year at 27. The only team higher than them is, I believe, going to be, Georgia at 29. But check this out. Ole Miss is tied at 27 with another team. You want to take a gander at who that is?
Would it be your Tennessee Vols?
Did my face give it away?
You did, just a little bit.
Here's the question. Can Ole Miss continue to do on the ground to Alabama what they've done, all year? That's the question.
That is absolutely the question. I don't think they match up great, but again, Alabama's had superior talent to LSU and Tennessee. So we will be, man, I'll be having my popcorn ready as Lane Kiffin tried to tell us to do last year. I'll have it ready Saturday.
Well, let's see if we can find this real quick. Let's flip over to the defensive side perspective for things. And rushing yards allowed on the year. Georgia is going to lead the conference at 86.4 yards per game. That is incredible.
Even as the college football game has, taken shape, and it's much more a passing league and a dual threat quarterback league than it's been over the last 20 to 100 years. That's remarkable. I mean, that is absolutely fantastic. I said it in our Orange Cast. I think they have been able to sleepwalk against everybody not named Oregon and Tennessee, and the only team that came close was Missouri there in a just absolute sleepwalk, of a game. That's just remarkable, especially considering what they lost last year.
Yeah,
coming off last year.
No doubt. So there's only two teams in the conference who are allowing less than 100 yards per game, Georgia being one, Tennessee being the other at 97 yards per game. Next best, and this should just create incredible conversation, because it's going to be Alabama.
Yeah.
Third best in the conference, 104 yards per game. Listen, what Georgia's doing almost shouldn't even count. What we're doing almost should not even count, right?
Yeah.
Alabama at 104 yards per game? That's incredible. So my question is, who's going to win this? Who's going to win this statistic on Saturday for Alabama and Ole Miss? Is it going to be the Alabama defense, or is it going to be the Ole Miss rushing attack? And that might be right there. That might be your winner. I mean,
absolutely. Yeah, and we talk about that stat a lot as Tennessee fans because of, how important that is in football, number one, but that Tennessee-Florida rivalry, it almost always comes down to the leading team rusher winning the game.
Mm-hmm.
And, looking at Ole Miss's rush defense, looks like they give up 155, so about 50 more yards per game allowed than Bama's rush defense.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a little bit scary if, Alabama does the smart thing and feeds Jahmyr Gibbs. That's a little bit scary. But again, man, just where they're going to be at mentally, they're never in this position. Now they're in this position, and you already had someone talking about, these players being okay where they're at. They're complacent because of NIL opportunities. They're already getting paid a little bit.
Yeah.
They haven't been in this situation and receiving NIL. So it's going to be fascinating to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So give me a score and give me a winner, and let's move on.
Yeah, I said earlier this year, I don't remember what week it was, but I think it was probably coming off of Georgia and Missouri, that excuse me, couldn't get my hands on the mute button there. Sorry, y'all. That the Georgia-Auburn game, I believe it was going to be the last time that I just trusted Georgia by default. I wasn't going to make a habit of doing that anymore. This will be the last time that I trust Alabama by default, because everything – talent-wise, roster-wise, just tells me, even looking at stats, the only thing that, that Ole Miss really does better is run the ball better on offense.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to trust Alabama. I'm going to trust Bryce Young because, I had a man crush on him coming into the season because of how fantastic he is. I'm going to trust that talent, Bryce Young. I'm going to say that Ole Miss can score 20, 24 tops, but I think Alabama is sitting there at 38, 42, that region. But, it'll just be – I keep saying it, but it's going to be so fun to watch because they're just never in this scenario.
Yeah. Agreed. So what was your final score there?
I'll say 42-20.
42-20 Alabama. Okay. I can see something very similar, and I'm going to pick Alabama, and it's not going to have anything to do with the stats. It's not going to have anything to do, with the last names that are on the back of the jerseys for either team. It's going to be the fact that I cannot see Alabama finishing this season 9-3.
Absolutely.
Now, I do want to ask you something else before we move on, before I give you a score prediction. If Alabama does lose this game, and Alabama is now staring at a 9-3 season with just who else do they have left? Very, very quickly,
they have a no
Austin
name and then
P and Auburn. Yeah. Okay, so 9-3. That'll be the outcome. This is their last test. Is the Saban dynasty over?
Man, I heard somebody say that last week when Alabama lost LSU and Georgia, handled Tennessee, that was the changing of the guard. Boy, if they go 9-3, the way that Kirby is handling success off of a championship year, I'm going to say that's the official changing of the guard. 9-3 season, which is average to mediocre. It's mediocre by what Alabama's been, but it's average for everybody else. I'm going to say that's the changing of the guard. That would be the end of the dynasty. I mean, they've got the number one recruiting class. It's not like it's the end of the world, but
right.
I mean, we also have talked about not on our podcast, but Saban is in that old territory now. He's hit 70. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've heard him talk about NIL and hating it and all this and that. I mean, how long? What's his patience level going to be at if they go 9-3 with, frankly, what I think is one of the best quarterbacks they'll ever have, which is saying a lot. I mean, I don't know where his patience and where his head's going to be at.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah, no, I'm with you. I will say this: if Alabama loses this game on Saturday, and if you are a non-Alabama fan of any kind of sorts living in Tuscaloosa, get out, leave, because couches will be on fire and gunshots will be going off, and somebody is going to be dead, guaranteed.
Yes,
Ricky Joe Bobby will be on a tear. Yeah. Drive east, get out of there. take I-65. Or get as fast as you can to I-65 and get out of there. With that said, I'm going to say Alabama 45, Ole Miss something like 31-32. I think it's close up until the fourth quarter, and in the fourth quarter, Alabama just has control at this point. Time is against Ole Miss. They have to rely too much on Jackson Dart, and not that he's a bad quarterback. He's just not good enough to get it done. At the end of the day, I like Bryce Young way more than I do Jackson Dart, and I think that pressure is going to be too much for something like a guy like him to handle. All right, so you said that's a game that has your attention. Here's the game that has my attention because it directly affects Tennessee.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the Horned Frogs traveling to Austin, Texas to play the Longhorns. And what's so fascinating about this one is Gary Patterson playing his old team, right? And what is he gonna know? What is he gonna have schemed up? And I'm just telling you, if TC loses this game on Saturday, Tennessee's in. I mean, I think they're already in right now, but Tennessee is in. The ESPN FBI has Texas winning this game at 73%. Vegas likes Texas by an even 7, and this over-under is set at 65. There's a couple things that I want to throw out to you before we jump into this. Just looking at some offensive numbers here. TCU actually leads the Big 12 in offensive yards per game, 508.7 yards per game. If there are any non-football people out there and you're listening because you think our voices are that of angels, thank you. You don't know football? Here, let me tell you, that is a crap ton of yards per game.
It's amazing. That's amazing. Because also, talking about the Gary Patterson Bowl here, is this not their first year without him? Is this not the first year of this coach that they have?
Year one. That's it.
Wow, dude.
Year
Wow.
one. So TCU sits at 508 yards per game offensively. Texas at 447. Okay. I mean, that's also a lot.
Yeah, it is.
That's also a lot. Let's flip over to the defensive side and see if I can find numbers here real quick. And I can. Wow. All right. Was not expecting that. Iowa State leading the conference in 284 yards per game allowed. All right.
That's fantastic.
That's fantastic. As far as this Texas TCU game is concerned, man, they're really close. Texas allows 381 yards per game. TCU allows 396 yards per game. With all that said, who do you got? What's your score? What do you think?
This is why I'm a bad sports bettor, right? And it's because Vegas is telling us everything's telling us that Texas is going to win this game. But I'm riding with TCU until they actually lose one of these games. They have played with fire in all recent victories, if not all games this year. They've played with fire. They have toyed with disaster.
Yeah.
But they have been one score or two scores here and there better than everybody they've played. And I just think they're going to do it again. And it's not that I don't think Texas is on the way or that they don't have talent. It's just, again, that I'm going to trust TCU. I'm not going to bet this game, but this is why I'm a bad bettor, y'all, because I think TCU gets it done. I think it is a close game. I think this absolutely, man, I think it's going to hit the over 65. I mean, I think this game could get into the 40s for both teams, but I mean, I think it's, again, a close win for TCU. I'm going to say 42-35. That'll hit the over. That'll be, I mean, they're right there at that 7. Well, that's actually Texas that by 7. So they're, I think, going to win outright. But I'm going to say 42-35 Longhorns. Gosh, Horned Frogs. That's just too much confusion and dyslexia.
That's just too much horn.
Thursday.
Just too much horn.
Yes. Gosh, man. Can it be the weekend already?
So I think this is the game where the scoreboard breaks.
Yeah.
Right. You know, you're just talking about offensive firepower. You're talking about a game that is indicative of how we've known the Big 12 to be for the last, 15, 20 years, where there's just no defense. And, you know, they put all their athletes on the offensive side, as TJ Moe said when Missouri came into the SEC. The Big 12 puts their athletes on the offense. SEC just puts theirs on the defense. That's the only difference. Okay, you're an idiot. I think – and anytime the media has said, man, this is the game where the scoreboard breaks, you know, you're looking at something where like 65, 63, and then it just never happens, right?
Yeah.
It turns out to be opposite. It's like 14-10. You know, the Big 10 West is like, hello. But I think this is where it happens. I mean, so I'm going to check this out. Texas, 65.
Wow.
TCU, 63.
Wow, dude. That's crazy.
Not in overtime. Not in overtime, in regulation. I think something that's going to be impactful as well is you're looking at a night game. This is a big game for Texas. It's in Austin. I would expect that crowd to be ruckus, create some problems for the TCU offense. And I'm going to say that's going to be the difference. The Austin crowd and potentially whoever has the ball last.
Absolutely.
Who scores last? There might not be a punt.
I could 100% see that.
There might not be a punt. So, all right. Hey, let's move on and do we want to talk about Vanderbilt, Kentucky, or do we want to just disrespect them and move on? I'll put this in your hands.
Disrespect. Always.
Okay. I love it. I love it. I'm here for it. All right. So with that being said, since we're going to move on, how does Clemson bounce back? They're going to be hosting Louisville. This game is going to be 3:30 on ESPN. The spread is at, I just had it. Where did it go?
Clemson by a touchdown.
Yeah. An even 7. Over under set at 52.
Boy, at Clemson, I get it, but I don't like this matchup for them.
Oh gosh, that's exactly what I was gonna say.
Well, that's hilarious. But the reason I say that, just pulling the curtain back out here from the start. We talk about this Clemson defense. Yeah, they've got a nasty front. They've still got athletes all over the place. They've been recruiting right there with your Georgias, Alabamas, Ohio States, you name it. They've been recruiting right there with those guys. But they only allow 10 exactly 10 less yards per game than Louisville. Mm-hmm. And this Clemson offense has been anemic. They have been DJ Uiagalelei's career wrapped up in a nutshell. That's what they've been.
Yeah.
So I think if they're going to win this game, Mr. Shipley is going to need to go absolutely to town. He's going to have to go off. After they pulled DJ a few weeks ago against Syracuse or whenever, they said that it was still his job. Listen, it's time to pull the plug on that at Clemson for him. It's over there for me. It is over. So roll out your Cade Klubnik, get your Will Shipley on the ground. But I just don't think it's enough, man. I think that Louisville wins this game. They're only a touchdown dog at Clemson, which is saying so much between the lines of what they really think of Clemson right now. I think this will absolutely be a low-scoring game with those defenses not even allowing 350 yards per game on average. Over under 52, dude. I could see it more like at 26 total points, and I'm going to say Louisville 20, Clemson 17. Even though that's obviously going over the number I said a moment ago, I don't think there's any chance they push 52 at all. And I just don't like the matchup for Clemson trying to keep Malik Cunningham and those running backs in check all day when their offense can't do them any favors. I don't like that, and I smell trouble.
This is a nightmare matchup for Clemson. And you're talking about a scenario where they could come out of this weekend on back-to-back losses. Oof. And it's almost that Saban factor. Are they going to end up 9-3? Is Clemson going to go back-to-back losses? That really dictates my answer here. But I'm going to take a Louisville win. And I think it's going to come down to, if it does come down to a shootout, I don't like DJ. And I'm back to right where I was, before his minor little progression there.
Yeah.
And Dabo is just, I feel like going back to the early 2010s before Mac Brown lost his job at Texas. He lost his job at Texas because he got stubborn. He refused to adapt his offense to his current personnel. Garrett Gilbert was not Colt McCoy. He was a statue. He was a pocket passer, which turned out to be, a pretty good one once he transferred somewhere else. But they kept trying to do Colt McCoy things with Garrett Gilbert, and it ultimately was Mac Brown's death in Austin.
Yep.
Dabo, his loyalty, I won't call it his stubbornness to stick with DJ. I'm going to call it his loyalty to stick with DJ. At this point, like, bro, it's time. It's time.
It is so past time.
Malik Cunningham is that dude. Is he a great passer? No. Is he a great football player? Uh-huh.
Absolutely.
Uh-huh. And he is good enough to beat you. That Clemson defense is elite. But if Clemson's offense can't put drives together, if they can't sustain things, then I just don't like it.
Agreed completely.
I don't like it at all. So I'm gonna take Louisville in a close one. I'm gonna say Louisville 31, Clemson 27.
I completely could see it.
Yep.
Could see it easily.
Which would be a nightmare situation for Dabo Swinney.
It sure would.
All right, moving on, but keeping things in the ACC because there is a spread that absolutely has to be mentioned.
Okay.
Miami at Georgia Tech. Can't help myself here. Georgia Tech is favored by 1.5 points. Tech fighting for bowl eligibility, but also the Hurricanes fighting for bowl eligibility. And they need this one because after that, they play Clemson at Clemson and they host Pitt. And I don't like them in either one of those.
Not at all.
And they just need this Georgia Tech win just to get to 5 wins. So, so they have to have this one. Georgia Tech at a 1.5 in that hostile crowd in the ATL. just some quick stuff real quick. Georgia Tech, excuse me, let's start with Miami. Miami sitting at 24.4 points per game. Georgia Tech sitting at 17.4 points per game. Miami sitting at 25 points allowed per game. Georgia Tech sitting at 28. I'm not going to have this pulled up. Like, there's just probably not a chance unless, the game that I'm really interested in at 3:30 is on ESPN, and I can use my app to pull up the whole grid and get 4 games going at one time. But who comes out 5-5 tomorrow? and who comes out 4-6?
Georgia Tech has been pretty much in most of their games. I mean, heck, they were in that Clemson game with Jeff Collins for longer than they should have been.
Yeah.
Where you got Miami getting absolutely murdered by Florida State, getting handled, by Duke getting handled, barely beat Virginia Tech, which I think Georgia Tech also barely beat them. Dude, I cannot go with Miami on this. I can't trust them as far as I can throw them. The stats that you mentioned, the only thing that's really different is Miami scoring about a touchdown more per game. But again, I just can't trust that right now. They played 3 quarterbacks, and we couldn't determine who the starter was in their last game against Florida State. And that's a recipe for a loss in any conference game, just about, with the exception of maybe a Rutgers or a Vanderbilt here and there. That's a recipe for disaster if it's not just getting reps for guys. So, man, I'm going to ride with Georgia Tech, and it's going to be low scoring and ugly, I think. Maybe like a 17-14 or a 20-14 top win for Georgia Tech, which is just atrocious. It's already atrocious. Like we're talking about them being a 1.5 underdog in Atlanta when they fired Jeff Collins earlier in the year. They fired their coach. Just so bad. All the transfers they added, whoop-de-doo.
Yeah.
How's it working out? Not good.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, man. Give me the freaking Yellow Jackets in this game.
Okay. I'm also going to take Georgia Tech, and I can see this game being Georgia Tech 10, Miami 9.
Yeah,
you know
right.
What I'm saying? Yep. Georgia Tech wins, but they don't cover. They're both sitting at 5-4, but it's a very different 5-4. 4 and 5. But they're both 4-5, but it's a very different 4-5 for the both of them. Georgia Tech sitting at 4-5 on the year, having overachieved.
Yes. Yeah.
Miami is sitting at 4-5, having. Oh God!
Not even. Yeah.
Like with losses to MTSU on your record, right? I mean, golly, sin has left a crimson stain, right?
Yeah.
My heavens. So I just think that they're in very different places mentally as teams, and because of that, and because it being in Atlanta, give me Tech, and I'm going to say Tech wins, but they don't cover. Oh gosh, what the heck? I'll take Georgia Tech 12, and I will take Miami 10.
Well, that would be a cover, but yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Is there any possible way for them to reach 11? They'd have to get a safety, wouldn't they?
Safety and a
you
touchdown.
know what? No. Georgia Tech 13, Miami 12.
There you go. It will be a field goal battle if there are points scored. It could also be 0-0 going into the 10th overtime. You never know.
I mean, golly.
Yeah,
Just don't have words for this. Hey, there's another game going on Saturday night that's going to have my interest. It's going to be telling that of the college football playoff because Oregon still has an outside shot to get into the playoffs, but they're hosting a dang good Washington offense.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Michael Penix is one heck of a passer. Just some numbers real quick as we dive into this. Washington at a total of 495 offensive yards per game. Oregon.
Wow.
520.
Wow.
520.
Wow.
And Bo Nix, bro, on the year has been, dude, I mean, solid. I mean, he's at 24, just shy of 2,500 yards, 22 scores, 5 picks. Michael Penix, he's at 3,200 yards passing, 23 touchdowns, 5 picks. This could either be a thriller 35-31, or this could be a thriller in the sense that it's my prediction on TCU Texas.
Yes, right? That's what I was thinking.
I mean, we could be talking at the end of the weekend. Oh my gosh, did anybody see that Oregon Washington game? They combined for 170 points, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
just outrageous here. So the spread is in favor of Oregon at 13. This game is in Autzen. That is a very underestimated crowd, right?
Absolutely.
Autzen Stadium can get loud. And this is a big one. Our Oregon's playoff chances are riding on this one. You lose this and you're out. You win it. You've added a top 25 win to your resume, only furthering your case on why you should be in. With all that said, what happens? Who wins? What's your score? Who covers? All the fun stuff.
Oregon wins. Washington covers because these defenses are really, really close statistically. The offenses favor Oregon, like you mentioned, by 25 yards, even though Michael Penix is, just obviously leading the nation in passing. He's throwing it around at a just unreal clip. But again, I trust Oregon just not to cover because I don't think you keep an offense that's doing what they're doing down to beat them by 2 touchdowns unless you are legit. And I don't think Oregon is quite there. I just think their offense and Bo Nix, what he's doing is really good. But again, they're not going to slip up. They are going to win the game. Man, I think it's going to be plenty high scoring, I think it'll be a 52-48 win for Oregon, a really high scoring, over 100 points, right at 100 points rather. And again, I like Oregon to win. I just don't like them to cover. That 2 touchdowns feels, and this is why I'm a bad sports bettor, but it feels a little bit much for me, man. I don't know.
Yeah, I hear you. So now that you've said that, that's your score prediction. I'm just going to come out and say it's a dang shame that this game is on Fox.
Yes, it is. Absolutely is.
Because the odds of me flipping off the ESPN app are just not likely.
Yep.
With my capability of watching multiple at once. Man, if that's the case, though, golly, what's the play-by-play guy there for Fox?
Oh crap! Oh my gosh!
You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah,
I want to say Charles Davis, but for some reason that doesn't feel right.
No, Gus Johnson.
Gus Johnson. Goodness, listen, Gus Johnson as a play-by-play guy. He might be able to put a highlight reel together of his of just himself and his words at the end of this one, right? I mean, this could be fantastic for him. All right, but there's a telling stat out there that actually favors Washington. Okay, so defensively, they are second in the Pac-12 in yards per game. The only team ahead of them is Utah, 344 yards per game. Washington is allowing 355. Oregon's up in that 380 range. All right, so that could be indicative. That could be telling. As well as these guys are slinging it around, I really think this is going to come down to who actually runs the ball better.
Yeah.
All right. With that said, Oregon and Washington are at the top of the Pac-12 in rush defense. Oregon leading the way at 107 yards allowed per game. Washington at 117 allowed yards per game on the ground. Let's see if I can find passing very quickly. And I can. And Washington leading the way there. Okay, this is indicative. So Washington's third best in the conference at allowing 237. So what I'm seeing so far through the lens of just the Pac-12 is Washington's defense ain't so bad, right?
No, it's not.
Oregon's allowing 276 passing yards per game. So even though Oregon is winning, and some of these wins really convincingly, right?
Some of them.
They're allowing yards. A lot of them. A lot
Absolutely.
of them. A lot of them. I'm going to say something similar, though. I'm going to say Oregon 56, Washington 52. So that means that Oregon wins, but they do not cover. This could be the game potentially outside of Texas TCU, just the game of the weekend through a national lens. A lot riding again for Oregon there. So I will say, though, from a Tennessee perspective, we'll passively be rooting for the Huskies. Like, hey, just go ahead and end it for them,
Please.
just go ahead and put it out of sight there. So, hey, we go from talking about Texas TCU, a lot of points being scored. We go from Oregon, Washington, a lot of points being scored. Let's transition and let's talk about A&M and Auburn.
Ooh.
And not a lot of points being scored. It's a lot like this. This feels, I cannot believe we're even saying this. This feels like the Miami Georgia Tech game. They're both sitting at 3-6. Auburn is your favorite at 1.5 points.
God.
And it has just to be because it's in Jordan Hare, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
The over-under is set at 48.5. And I think that over-under is about 48.5 too high.
Right? Yeah, absolutely.
It might be 0-0 at the end of regulation.
Yeah.
Because these offenses are atrocious.
They're so bad. Texas A&M, what a weird game last week against Florida. I don't think we talked about it. They had a lot of dudes out sick with the flu, which is just triggering, honestly, because we're used to having guys out with COVID. Yeah. It's triggering to have guys out with illness, but I think they put up like 24 in the first half, which was odd to me. Not saying much about Florida here. I'm just saying it's odd to me that Texas A&M put up 20 plus and a half. I don't know that they scored in the second half, but they did also rely on A-Chain some, like they ought to do on every single offensive snap.
Yeah.
But and listen, maybe I like Texas A&M in this game. That's the way that I'm feeling because of A-Chain. Last week we saw Mississippi State have just enough to beat Auburn there at Davis Wade or what have you in Starkville. Mm-hmm. And I think this is just it's sad for both teams, but I do like Texas A&M a little bit here because of at least having A-Chain, of at least having quarterbacks put up some points in the first half there last week, and just not trusting Ashford Cadillac as a interim coach. I'm gonna ride with Texas A&M, and I really hate to if you can't tell, but yeah, I'm gonna say low scoring, man. Again, let's say Texas A&M 21, Auburn 10. I don't know.
So our podcast is less than a year old. We launched in July, and we've had 10 weeks of analysis and recap. And this is the first time where I've looked at a game and gone, bro, I don't know.
Is it basketball season yet? I'm kidding.
I don't know. I mean, we just got through talking about Michael Penix, who's 3,000 plus passing yards. Bo Nix, who's 2,800.
Yeah.
Here's Robbie Ashford at 1,300 yards, 5 touchdowns, 5 picks. Here's Haynes King at 1,200 yards, 7 touchdowns, 6 picks. You've got a handful of quarterbacks in this league in college ball who you can take Ashford's numbers and King's number and double them, and they still have more, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I do think that this game will come down to which quarterback is better that day, because I've said over and over again, hey, Tank Bigsby is good enough to get it done. Well, no, that hasn't happened. Yep. And I've said David A-Chain is good enough to get it done, and that hasn't happened. A-Chain statistically is better than Bigsby. I don't know that if I'm building a team, right, and I'm to the running back section of my team and I'm drafting these guys, I don't know that I'm taking A-Chain over Bigsby. I mean, if Bigsby's on the board, right? Yeah. I mean, the dude's a every down back. I'm not convinced that A-Chain is. I mean, explosive, yes. Bigsby's just the ever down dude. So I guess what the difference is quarterback play. And you know what? Okay, so with that being said, I guess I will lean towards the Aggies because I like their receiving core better. Evan Stewart is one of those guys who you can just oh crap, he's down there somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Or they're in a 3rd and 6 situation and they toss it up near the marker for a 50-50 ball, and that dude is just that good to get it done. I will take A&M 17, Auburn 13, and that's really just because, bro, I don't know.
Let me tell you this: if you're building a team, here's why A-Chain is where he is compared to Bigsby. If you look at Auburn, you've got Bigsby where he's at, you've got Ashford, and you've got Jarquez Hunter over 300, and in Ashford's case, over 500 yards rushing. On Texas A&M squad, you don't have another player with 100 yards rushing on the season. For the season, their next leading rusher has 80-something yards. That is why you see the stats the way they are. If you look at the two, that's probably why I would lean A-Chain to an extent, because, man, if I'm there and it's this bad, I might be opting out. I'm just telling you the truth. I might have opted out by now. And I absolutely hate opt-outs, even though I understand the health aspect. He's just absolutely by himself at that position, has been by himself on offense for most of the year. Poor guy, but don't feel too bad for the Aggies overall. But that's why they are where they are statistically, because he has got absolutely no one pushing him or even in the same ballpark offensively as him on that squad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'm with you. Just a sad day, sad days in College Station, sad days in Auburn, Alabama. I mean, that really is. I mean, outside of Vanderbilt, this is your bottom bowl, right?
Yes, it is.
Bowl of the bottom. So
yeah,
I mean, if I'm Auburn, I guess if I'm either one of them, just send the house, man.
Yeah, dude, just blitz.
Just screw it. I mean,
yeah, play with your hair on fire, even though there's probably not a hair left.
A great question maybe we should be asking is if Auburn wins this game, does Jimbo have a job on Monday? But at this point, with the way the coaches' tenures have lasted, with example being Brian Harsin, who knows? Who knows? So
absolutely.
Well, if there's any hope, moving on, if there's any hope of Georgia losing a game this year, it's going to come Saturday night in Starkville as they travel to take on the Bulldogs. This Mississippi State cover, I guess, is the better question, because it's sitting at 16 even. Vegas likes Georgia, and I understand why.
Vegas likes Georgia. Like Georgia in this game as much as any. Listen, I know that Mississippi State has taken some strides with things that they do defensively and things like that, but if they keep Georgia under 45, I'll be impressed.
Yeah.
And maybe Georgia, because again, I talked about Georgia sleepwalking and really, giving their full attention and effort to Oregon and Tennessee and what they're capable of. But outside of those games, they haven't done it. So where are they at coming off of a game again where I think they spent all of their energy, all of their time for a long time focusing on? I'm sure they've done the same with Leach because, I mean, heck, he can put up points and yards for sure. But listen, dude, I'll be shocked if Mississippi State scores 13. I really will. I'm just going to give an even, I think Georgia covers. I'm feeling like a 38-10 situation. Mm-hmm. I could be selling their defense short with that 10 because if all they face is, a bunch of checkdowns to the running backs, a bunch of mesh, and Will Rogers stepping up in the pocket and scrambling for 0 to 3 yards, nothing about that makes me feel good that Georgia loses or even gets remotely pushed. And again, I think they could sleepwalk their way to a 38-10 win in a game like this.
Yeah, I think the greatest factor in this game is what is Georgia's emotional state after this Tennessee game, because we have found out when they are not up for games, they're susceptible, right?
Yeah.
Missouri, Kent State.
Yeah. But
when they are on,
it's over.
you can't beat them. They just don't stand a chance. So if we get the Georgia that we saw against Tennessee, Stetson Bennett is not playing halfway through the third quarter.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? Because Mississippi State just doesn't have the receivers that we do, and they're a little more. I don't want to say one-dimensional, but they're a little more one-sided, I guess is a better way to say that than we are. The pass is it. They don't pass to set up the run; they pass to pass, right?
Yeah, they do.
They throw the ball. They throw the ball just because that's what they do. So Georgia 41, Mississippi State 17. They find the end zone twice and they kick a field goal once. I will say their opening points are a field goal.
Yeah.
And they maybe find a touchdown in garbage time or, just almost when it doesn't matter.
Yep.
Keeping it in the SEC, a fairly interesting one. What Arkansas do we get? And I think the better question is, does KJ Jefferson play? Because if he doesn't, LSU big. If he does, it still could be LSU big, I guess.
Yeah.
But do I have that wrong? Is the verdict still out if he's going to play or not?
No, you're not wrong. Because I saw, and listen, I don't follow, I don't follow anyone as closely as I do Tennessee, but I heard a comment from Pittman that was like he practiced on Monday and then he didn't practice the next day that they got together. So that's odd to me that he would practice on Monday and then not, the next practice. I don't get that. But man, it's hard for me not to like LSU. And listen, we talk about emotions of Georgia. We talk about where's Tennessee. We talked about on Orange Cast. Where's Tennessee going to be at? Would they even consider letting Georgia beat them twice? For some reason, I'm not really worried about where LSU's at. And that's a huge win that they just got, even with Alabama in the position they're in. That's a huge win that they collected. But I'm not worried about that. Even with this game being at Razorback Stadium, I just think Arkansas is kind of reeling a little bit. That was they lost to Liberty. Man, that's such it's a good team, but it's a hard loss to take, especially when you hold them to 21 points. Arkansas and Liberty, that is. So I like LSU to cover. They've played in a lot of close games this year where they've started slow and then they've just chipped away and kind of you get the best of them as the game goes on. So I could see it playing out like that, but I like them to cover. I think I like them by 10-14. And I think just where I'm going to be at for this, maybe if there is some emotions for LSU, not knowing where they're going to be at, I'll say LSU 27, Arkansas 17.
Okay. This seems to be the weekend of emotional bounce back. How do teams recover from emotional highs and lows, right?
Yeah.
My question is, does Brian Kelly understand this rivalry? Does he understand what it means to LSU fan base? More importantly, does Brian Kelly understand what this game means to Arkansas?
Yeah.
Right? Because this is a big one for them.
Yes, it is.
It's kind of the way that there's some bitterness on both sides of that Tennessee-Kentucky rivalry. But 9 times out of 10, we always get Kentucky's best, right? Yeah. I mean, they want to beat Tennessee.
Absolutely.
Going into seasons, we're not thinking, oh my gosh, we got to beat Kentucky this year. That's just not how we look at that. We're looking at, gosh, we got to beat Florida. Gosh, we got to beat Georgia. Gosh, we got to beat Bama. This is a game Arkansas probably always has circled, right?
Oh, yeah.
So how does LSU bounce back after that emotional high of beating Bama? What's the status of KJ Jefferson? And just for the sake of conversation, let's assume he plays. Let's assume he's healthy. That's how I'm going to base this. Because if he's not, then I think it's a much easier answer.
Oh, yeah.
I like LSU and I like them big. If KJ Jefferson plays, though, yes, it's at noon, but I think the Arkansas fans are going to show out just because I don't think there's anything else better to do in Arkansas because I don't think it's duck season. So,
yep.
I will take LSU to win, and I will take I'll take LSU to do more than cover, I think. LSU, Brian Kelly, I mean, he's a solid coach, right?
Yeah, he is.
And your best coaches and he's won everywhere he's been. Your best coaches manage the emotions well, right? It's what they do. They're great motivators. They're good at all the intangible things. So with that being said, and it's not that I don't like holy crap, his name just escaped me. Head coach at Arkansas, Pittman. Not that I don't like him. I just don't know that he has the horsepower right now. Had you asked me this off of a LSU loss against Alabama, I might be saying something different here, but
yeah,
LSU's just riding a wave of momentum right now, and I just don't think that Arkansas is going to have enough to handle it. So give me Arkansas, and give me Arkansas to cover. I'll take take LSU to cover. Give me LSU 31, Arkansas 20.
I want to throw something at you real quick because I was just looking down the SEC slate.
Yep.
We didn't even talk about this, but I was just looking down the SEC slate. I noticed that it's South Carolina in Gainesville against the Gators, 8-point favorites. Look at that. Look at us, dude. We're the same person, folks.
Look at us.
We are the same person many miles apart. ESPN matchup predictor likes the Gators 70.8% of the way here.
Yeah.
Vegas likes them by 8, which I think I like that too. But here's why I interrupted your normal programming to bring this up to you. All right. Spencer Rattler and Anthony Richardson are separated by 2 yards passing.
Wow.
Spencer Rattler has 31 more completions than Anthony Richardson, and he has 2 less passing yards than Anthony Richardson. They are separated by 1 touchdown, with Richardson having 9 and Rattler having 8. And they're separated by 2 interceptions, with Rattler throwing 9. That's right, 8 touchdowns, 9 picks for Rattler, and Richardson throwing 7 picks. That's all that separates them, okay? Look at the running backs, the leading rushers, and I know that they both have, I'm not going to say committees, but they all have, both teams have guys that they like, and they run several guys. But their leading rushers, Marshawn Lloyd at South Carolina, Montrell Johnson Jr. at Florida, they're separated by 8 carries. Lloyd's got 100, Johnson's got 92. They're separated by 7 yards and 1 touchdown, with Lloyd having 556 and Johnson having 549, and Lloyd having 9 touchdowns to Johnson's 8. How have we played 8? South Carolina's like, both teams have played 9 games. I'm just blind. How have we played 9 games and we have numbers that similar for these teams?
They're terrible quarterbacks. That's all I got.
I'm with you.
At least I can say in Shane Beamer, in Spencer Rattler's defense, is he doesn't have an offensive coordinator who is setting him up for success.
Yeah.
So I follow on TikTok a guy who runs a podcast. He's a South Carolina guy called the Spurs Up Show. He's very logical. Kind of tells it like it is. He doesn't see everything through Gamecock glasses, so I appreciate his comments. I'll say this about the South Carolina fan base: they want Satterfield out, gone,
badly.
But it's so far to the point where even this guy, who I actually respect, I respect his comments, he's out on Spencer Rattler. He's out, done.
I get it. I completely get it.
Even if the offensive coordinator is not setting you up for success, Spencer Rattler has just not looked good.
No.
I think people need to come to terms with, when he was at Oklahoma, he was the benefit of a system. He was the benefit of the 5 stars around him, right?
Yeah.
So with that being said, Anthony Richardson, he's just bad.
Yeah, dude. I agree.
So I don't know. What did you say the spread was on this one? Florida
by
8. Golly, this one is intriguing to me. I'm interested in it for all the wrong reasons, just because I want to see who's worse, right?
Yeah.
Florida by 7. Florida 35, South Carolina 28.
I'm with you. And I'll go as far as to say that Florida wins. I'm going to say on a pick 6 or something like that. I just think it's going to be a turnover. It's going to be a closer game, and I'm with you that South Carolina covers that 8 because, I'm in interested in both teams losing, which is impossible, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Because I want to know who's going to fall to fourth or fifth in the East. Who's it going to be, and I want it to be both, and it can't right now.
Hey, for a Tennessee fan, they actually can both lose on Saturday.
This is true.
You ready for this? Here's a perfect scenario. South Carolina wins the game, so Florida loses.
Yeah.
But it's at the cost of losing Spencer for the rest of the season.
There you go. That I like the way you think. Don't want to see him get hurt, but I like the way you think.
Sure.
Yeah. I think Florida is going to win this game though on a late turnover, and it's hard for me not. They could obviously it could be a scoop and score, it could be a sack, strip sack, but I just think it's going to be a Rattler pick six because the the Gator fans, they're not out, but they're very iffy right now, I think is the safe way to put it, because it's been a tumultuous first year with plenty of drama and plenty of things that they're not used to, like losing to Kentucky and Tennessee in the same year. But again, I think there'll be the environment of the Swamp will be enough. It is a 4:00 kick, so it's not, a PM primetime kick, but I think the environment will be good enough. I think Florida's good enough. I think they can run the ball in this game like they've wanted to do in every game. Score-wise, I'm kind of stumped, but I think I'm going to say Florida 40, South Carolina 33.
Okay. All right. Good stuff. Here's, again, hoping they both lose.
Yep.
Hey, we're going to end the show, and I'm going to end it by asking you a question. Okay. Don't look at your phone. Don't look. And I'm praying and hoping that you haven't already seen this. Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to give you two spreads. I want you to tell me which spread is which game.
Okay. One
spread is a 40-point spread. Another spread is a 31-point spread.
Okay. I may have seen them, but you know how my memory is. I'm guessing a little bit here as well.
Okay. So
the 31-point spread, is that USC Arizona?
No, it's not. So good. So one game is Michigan, Nebraska. Another game is Ohio State, Indiana. Which spread is which?
The higher one, the 40, is it 40?
Mm-hmm.
Is Ohio State, Indiana.
Leaving Michigan, Nebraska at 31. How the mighty have fallen.
Yikes.
Holy balls, y'all. Holy balls. So, very quickly, here's how we're going to end the show. Does either one of those guys cover? Indiana or Nebraska?
No. No. If I had to say one or the other, I would say Indiana. That's just the way I think Michigan's playing right now, where they had a crappy first half against Rutgers, and I think trailed at half.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna say it again. Run game, offensive line play, defense, those things travel. They're more physical to me. Not that Ohio State can't run the ball or won't, but they're more physical to me than Ohio State. And spoiler alert, this is the way I'm going to be leaning when we talk about the game. That was just a pathetic showing against Northwestern. They couldn't redeem it even with the second half or anything like that. Mm-hmm. So if either team covers, either opponent covers, I'll say Indiana covers. They're both ginormous numbers, so they're both easily coverable, but I'm still saying Indiana. That's just where I think they're at.
Okay.
Ohio State, that is.
I'm going to say Ohio State bounces back really well, and they do more than cover.
Okay.
And, golly, poor Nebraska. I don't know. I mean, even if they cover, it could still be ugly, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So I'm not even going to bother. I'm not going to disrespect Nebraska like that. But, again, Michigan playing really good ball right now. Hey, two things. We're not going to talk about it, but I'm just going to mention it before we hop off here. Illinois with a chance to basically just do it again in the West, 6.5-point favorites over Purdue. And Notre Dame is staring at a scary one with the Navy offense. Notre Dame's favored by 15.5, but it's at Navy. And what Notre Dame is going to show up on Saturday? Are they going to have the luck of the Irish? It remains to be seen. I don't know.
Yes, we'll see.
Does. Can Marcus Freeman continue to get it figured out? With that said, we're going to shut her down, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you listening. Again, he's Mike. He's beautiful. Look at that face. Hair or no hair, he's pretty. If you're listening on the podcast, just imagine that the sun and the moon had a baby and it is Mike's face, and it is shining, and it glows in the night. So we love you guys. Thank you so much for listening in. Thank you for tuning in. Like this video, subscribe to us. The best thing you can do for us are those things right there. Actually had somebody ask me yesterday, Mike, they've like, bro, you have a podcast? Dude, yeah. Me and a buddy have a podcast. Yes. And I was just telling them the bit of the success that we were having with it. And I would call what we're having success.
Absolutely.
And they said, how much are you making off that? And in my humility, I had to respond, well, we do it for free.
Yeah.
We do it for free. We don't make anything right now. But hey, the Lord is good, and you still have the chance right now in this moment to like this video and to subscribe to our channels. Apple Podcast, Spotify, Pandora, any place you find your podcast, you can find us and follow us. We cover all things college football, Tennessee, and everything else. We have 2 different episodes that drop on Mondays and Fridays for your liking. You don't like Tennessee? Hey, we're still the show for you, because you know what, Mike?
Pandemonium Reigns.
Still reigns.
Absolutely. Every week.
Still reigns. We love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you have a fantastic weekend. Enjoy your college football Saturday. God bless. Go Vols.
See y'all later.
Pandemonium Reigns.